answer is no. BioWare, and more specifically Dragon Age, has not always been quote unquote woke. The only reason I'm making this video is because I'm genuinely just so tired of seeing this so called argument being brought up every time anyone so much as critiques the Veilguard, where these fans say things like, BioWare and Dragon Age have always been woke, you're just a tourist if you only noticed now, and things like that. These fans are either very new to the franchise, part of the modern audience, or old fans that have been hooked on Copium for so long that they are still somehow hoping the Veilguard will be any good. Now, do not get me wrong, BioWare has always been very progressive with their views and their games. I mean, even Dragon Age Origins, which was massively adored by fans, had two bisexual characters, Leliana and Zevran, and even Shale, with whom you can have a conversation about gender and how she feels like neither gender anymore because she's now a golem and thus made of rock, and her gender is no longer relevant.
I did not think it needed to be said. It has never told me what gender it is, has it? Good for it. I am sure that to other creatures as soft and weak as itself, that would be perfectly obvious. The truth is that whatever gender I was is irrelevant now. I am a golem. I have no gender. It will not become an issue. Right. I catch it staring at my behind, and I will feel very awkward. Now, let us crush something soft and watch it fountain blood. That is a girlish thing to want to do, yes?
And a lot of people will look at this on a surface level and say things like, see, Dragon Age has always been woke. They even had a non-binary character in their first game. But that is simply not true at all. BioWare and Dragon Age were progressive, but they have never been woke until recently. You see, woke and progressive are two very different words with two very distinct and different meanings, in my opinion at least. A simple way you can recognize whether a game is woke or just progressive is to ask these two questions. 1. Was this included in the game because it adds something to the story or the character? And 2. Does it make sense lore-wise? If the answer to those two questions is yes, then the game is just progressive and not woke. Leliana and Zevran being bi, for example, made their characters more realistic because as a spy and an assassin respectively, it made more sense for them to be bi because they would have had different targets of both genders throughout the years. Or even Shale feeling like neither gender anymore made sense as well because she's a golem now, so that made complete sense as well because she is made of rock now, so her gender was irrelevant anyway. If, however, the inclusion feels forced, and like the writers were just ticking boxes off of a diversity list, or if that aspect of the game is just there to pander to a certain group of people, or maybe because the publisher and or studio, or even both, need to comply by ESG criteria to attract more investors, then the game is just woke, and the only reason they included something like that was to pander and in an effort to come off as cool. However, the only real motivation is getting that sweet ESG money and in an effort to virtue signal to other people. I mean, even if we look at Veilguard's companions alone, it is like reading off of that diversity requirement list the Academy has put out about who a movie needs to include in order to even be considered for an Oscar. So we have a Black, Asian, and Hispanic looking character. At least 30% of the companions are women. All of them are part of the LGBTQ community since everyone is pansexual. And ding, 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 ding! We even have a person with a physical disability, ladies and gentlemen. Of course, there is absolutely nothing wrong with people who belong to any of the groups I just mentioned, but all of these were included in the game in such a shallow way that the game is not even out yet, and you can just tell by how in your face this information has been. I mean, Nev was even supposed to be a white blonde lady, but of course that just could not happen, despite any other iteration of an ice mage in other media throughout the years being a white blonde lady. The companions' diversity and sexuality have also been so overplayed that they are being used as a selling point for the game. Mary Kirby, an original but now former BioWare writer, has said so herself. She said that she wrote Lucanis to be a, quote, bisexual disaster of a human, end quote. Oh, and I forgot, we are also supposed to thank her for that. Because obviously, the only thing that matters about a character is their sexuality. That's the only basis upon which we can discern whether a character is a well written one or not, obviously. And of course, if we read the books, we can learn more about Lucanis. If I hadn't read the books, I would have no idea who Lucanis was other than a bisexual disaster of a human. The problem here is not the fact that this is part of the character. The problem here is that this is the thing advertised about the character. So the progressive aspects of the game have always been there, but they have never been used as the sole selling point for Dragon Age. And even if they were mentioned in passing. The key factor as to why this was just progressive in the past but woke now, because all of this was just optional in the past. If you did not want to, you could even not recruit these companions, and even if you did, you could still ask them to leave the party, or have them hate you so much that they either decide to leave the party on their own, or you end up fighting each other, and then you essentially unalive them. So I'm not sure whether they have discussed this yet, but I would be willing to bet that we are stuck with these companions and we have to recruit them all, because telling them to leave would be just too offensive, of course. Also, if you did not talk to them, you would not even know about their sexualities either. Whereas today the game is not even out yet and we know everyone is pansexual. So, for a group of people who always support personal choice and consent, like everyone should, by the way, they still seem pretty fine with disregarding your personal choice and consent to participate in these matters. As long as they are the ones that get to spread the message that they so desperately want to shove down everyone's throats, choice is just a suggestion. So it is fine for people of this specific group that have managed to get into a position of power in the studio to shove their political and social views down your throat, but God forbid you say you are not interested in such matters, or even worse, that you will not buy the game because you do not want to support these kinds of things invading every single medium of entertainment. Now, for every valid criticism an old fan makes, their answer is something like this. Hey BioWare, why are there only 3 choices taken into account in the new game? Oh, because this is a clean slate, but look over here, this character is non-binary. Okay, that's fine, but BioWare, why can we not control our companions anymore? Oh, because we did not want to overwhelm you. We totally did this for you. But look over here, Lucanis is a bisexual disaster of a human. Okay, but why didn't you at least get rid of the dialogue wheel? Something we have been asking you to do for many, many years now. Oh, that's actually because that was the player's most favorite thing. But look, we got rid of the spiders in case you're afraid of them.
You serious?
Essentially, it feels like they keep disregarding our complaints and then glossing over them, and then the information that they think will make us forget that this no longer looks or even feels anything like a Dragon Age game anymore is something that literally no old fan of the franchise is interested in or even cares about. So, in my opinion, it is clear to see that old Bioware was just progressive and organically writing modern day issues into their stories, whereas modern day Bioware is just taking diversity boxes off of a diversity list, and it feels more like they are trying to have one of everything from said list rather than having said diversity incorporated organically and naturally into the game and its lore. Like I said in my other video, I think this is the reason they want a new slate. The game will take place in Northern Thedas. They have already told us the lore will be different. Our previous choices just do not matter at all. And they are basically twisting the world of Dragon Age into one where they can push whatever message they want to. And this new world that they will create will be one where they can do whatever they want with the lore, with the characters, and the story without us, old fans, holding them accountable or complaining anymore, because none of the lore, the characters, the story, and even the world in general that we previously knew and loved exists in the game anymore. In conclusion, my answer is an emphatic no. BioWare and its franchises, and namely Dragon Age, have not always been quote unquote woke. They have always been progressive, but they have not always been woke. I think their goal is to just get rid of anyone who disagrees with them and their message in general, so they can keep pushing their propaganda without issue, since all their fans will be like minded people at the end after all this is done.
Don't ask questions. Just consume product and then get excited for next product.
So, their end goal is to have a Dragon Age world within which they can do whatever they want to, assuming, of course, the studio will survive long enough to do so.